It's time for the crew to review. Here comes Captain Marfu's Boo and his silly crew. Time to review.
Romancing Saga 2: Revenge of the Seven. Hoo boy! Now this was a Christmas present among Christmas presents. Putting in almost 48 hours to beat the game the first time. Man, it was a lot of fun.
There's just something about how the Romancing Saga games work. They always just are great. The leveling up, the battles, everything.
And that music, I loved every second of listening to that music. Kenji Ito should be a name as well known as Nobuo Uematsu. However, he's not, because not as many people have played the Romancing Saga games. But that's something that should be rectified immediately.
Now let's talk a little bit about this story. You get to be an emperor. Look at me. I'm Emperor Friere.
Now, what threw me for a loop at first is the whole emperor system. You see, every emperor has a set number of things they can accomplish during their lifespan before it moves on to the next emperor. And every time, your retinue of additional characters basically get palette swapped because they get new names because it's a different time period. It took me just a little bit to get used to it. By the time I got to the third emperor, I was fine, but between going from Gerard to the next one, it was like, oh, okay, well, whoopsies. I didn't do as much as I thought I was going to do, but it's important to note that the whole story is that there's a magic spell that gets weaved over the Emperor that passes their power down to the next generation so that they can go on and continue questing and becoming even stronger, because the main villains of the series, who are the 7 heroes, are people who used to be heroes, but they also did a magic spell which they began to absorb monsters into themselves and became monsters. So they have become tyrants trying to destroy the world, and you're fighting against them.
Now, with the world map, you understand that you have to find the different places to look for. You see, there are some that don't open up until you get a mission or you talk to an NPC, or you go from one side of a specific town that you just reached to a different exit, and then it will unlock new areas to go and explore, which includes new places to go do missions, to fight against the legendary 7 heroes or other things similar to that. The important point is you get the choice to go where you want and what to do, with only a little bit of handrails at the very beginning. But once you get it open, you can go off and explore and just open up the world as much as possible right off the bat.
Now we need to take a minute to talk about combat. Like the other Romancing Saga games, turn-based combat, 5 characters in your team, and you can learn your abilities and attacks during battle. Now, what separates this a little bit from the previous one that I've played, which is the Romancing Saga Minstrel Song, which is incredible, probably one of the best PlayStation 2 RPGs you could get your hands on. This one, you have direct experience points, but it doesn't work the same way as traditional RPGs. Instead of just gaining a level and you have all your stats go up, in this instead, you level up your weapon types and your magic based on what you use in combat. So, if you want to get your sword leveled up, better keep using sword. Once you get your sword leveled up enough, you can gain access to new abilities, and so on and so forth. You gain HP experience and BP, which is your MP, and you can level it up. And the boss fights are awesome. And there's also the weakness system, So if you're paying attention to what the enemies are weak against, not only will you do more damage, you will build up your overdrive combinations. So once that meter is full, you can gain access to using, a combo where you can make your allies' attacks join together. It's super smooth, and the combat was absolutely great. And what's ridiculous is the fact that I wound up making the main emperor a martial artist, and it turned out that is one of the best types of weapons in the game because it's really useful against some of the more difficult bosses. So keep that in mind. Martial arts, at least one member of your team, pretty much the whole game. They're a powerhouse. As mentioned, the 7 heroes are the main villains of the game. But you see, they're called heroes because in the ancient past, they rose up against a challenge called the Termite Queen. And the termites are a group of these giant monsters. Now, I had heard of the song, The Termites Attack, which I listened to before I even played the game. So I knew the termites was something in the game. Little did I know that they were an entire species of giant monsters who were going to try to destroy all of humankind. And they were the main threat that the legendary 7 heroes had to fight against. And you see, they did fight. But in order to win, they had to give up their humanity. And then they became the next group of evil. But when I got to the point in the game where the termites began to appear again, I got so excited. I had to rush through and defeat the termites. And just unbelievable. But it was one of the hardest fights that I went in the game was against the Termite Queen because I was not ready for it. From that point on, I became very determined on training and powering up. And that's the nice thing. It's very easy to train and power up and take the time that you need. And I highly suggest if you haven't played this game, check it out.